He's back, the one and only, the truly special one, the one everyone loves. Special Chit Chat answering 100 Harry Potter questions. Chit Chat. Yeah, I know you guys miss the Chit Chat. I miss doing it too, but since there were a lot of repeated questions coming in, I let some time pass so I could make these specials here. Alright, here's some advice if you want to submit your question. I know there are many Chit Chat episodes,
but check if your question hasn't already been answered in another video, because otherwise you'll send a question and it'll just end up at the bottom. Because if there's an episode where I've already answered that question, I won't put it in the next episode, so it just keeps getting pushed further and further back.
That's why there are people who sent me questions in 2024 and they still haven't been answered.
Special 100 questions, episode 1st from Andrefs. Hey, Kako, how are you? I'm good, and you?
Is it possible to change the container of a soul from a Horcrux after it's been made? I love your channel. Thanks for the affection, and thanks for the question. It's not possible, there's no official information about it, but I'm going to make a decision right here. It's not possible to transfer it, at least not in anything we've seen in the wizarding world. In any information.
It's not possible for you to transfer the soul, the piece of soul from an already made Horcrux. I think it's impossible to do that. Flora always hi. Kako, hi.
If Voldemort hadn't tried to capture the Philosopher's Stone, Nicholas and Perenelle would have been able to live forever. Or does the Philosopher's Stone have a time limit? Hugs from my Harry Potter Always RPG. We love and admire your work.
Big hugs and kisses to everyone from the role-playing game Always group. Thanks for your question, Flora, but the answer is no.
As long as Nicolau and Pernell kept consuming the elixir of life, they would keep living. The problem is, would they actually keep going? They'd want to continue, having lived nearly 700 years. Eventually, I think they'd say something like this themselves. Ah, that's enough, that's it. But no, there's no limit set by the Philosopher's Stone. At least not that we know of. So if there is, it's not mentioned. Next, Flora from Always Role-Playing Game asks, Greetings, Kako. We at Always Role-Playing Game want to know which contraceptive methods wizards use.
We were wondering if maybe it's a spell, a potion. Is there something? Hugs. We thank you for keeping the magical world alive. Your work is brilliant. Thank you very much once again, Flora. Contraceptive method for wizards. Well, there is also no official information about it.
I'm not sure if that's a question, a concern, or just how they are. Like, oh, let's have a child, so let's make one, and that's it. No problem. No, I don't know if they have that. No, I would imagine, I don't know, some potion, something, right? To prevent it, I don't really know.
We have no official information, so it's an interesting question without an answer.
I even remember a meme where they said, oh, the most unrealistic thing about Harry Potter isn't the magic. It's a school full of teenagers and not having any cases of unwanted pregnancy. And then someone replied, oh, they have a fetus deletus there. People are really creative. Rafael de Castro says, Kako, how are you and your family? I really admire your work. I'm good, my friend. And you? Thank you so much.
So, do we know where the teachers stay at Hogwarts when they're not teaching? Like a staff room or something like that?
And what about their quarters? I keep wondering what Snape's or Minerva's room would be like. So, when they're not teaching, they're in the staff room or somewhere around Hogwarts. But yes, there is a staff room.
It actually appears in the books more than once. In the series, we'll also have the chance to see the staff room, according to the producers themselves.
Now, about the quarters. That's where they sleep, right? Because Hogwarts is a boarding school, so yes, they sleep there. We just don't know what those quarters are like, what they're actually like. But for Snape's, I picture it like this. With the curtains closed and no sunlight, you know? That old room smell. That's what I imagine Snape's is like. That kind of vibe.
Our next question is from Maite. Hi, Kako. I have a question about Polyjuice Potion.
It's a fact that one sip transforms a person for an hour. But if you drank a whole bottle and transformed for hours, wouldn't that be easier?
Dumbledore said the fake Moody had to drink it every hour on time.
So, I don't know exactly if one sip is equivalent to exactly 1 hour. I don't think it is. At least I don't remember. I could be wrong. But I believe that the thing with the polyjuice potion, like any other potion, is that you can't take a large amount at once because it can be toxic. Even Felix Felicis itself, if you take it in large quantities, it has a side effect that can be bad, you know? So, maybe that's why the person keeps taking it, like in the case of the fake Moody, right? Who was Bartemius Crouch Jr. That's why he would take it every hour, to keep up appearances and not take it all at once, and not have, I don't know, a polyjuice potion diarrhea, which I think would be the least of the things that could happen. Channel Noise de Pay says, Kako, all right. And you, considering your personality and preferences, if you were a Hogwarts student from any year, aside from the main trio, who would you most like to be friends with, to hang out with, and why? Hugs to you and your whole family. Thank you so much for your kindness, my dear friend. I think I would really like to be friends with Charlie Weasley, Fred, and George. I would also like to be friends. I would really like to be friends with Tonks, man. With Tonks. I would like to be friends.
But I also think I would really like to be friends with the Marauders. Like, to be part of the Marauders, you know? I think I would really like that. I think it would be really cool.
Wow, I would make Snape's life hell if I were part of the Marauders. Really. I would make his life hell, together with Tiago and Sirius. Guys who are fans of Snape? I'm just kidding, okay? Dude? Mauricio Coelho says, Kako, how are you? I really admire your work. Congratulations. Thank you so much, my friend. Throughout the story, it's said and repeated how safe Hogwarts is. You know how it is, right?
He himself said it, although many events contradict that.
So, if Hogwarts is so safe, how does Sirius manage to access the school's flu network so easily? Man, is Hogwarts really the safest school? But every year, Harry almost gets taken out, right? Poor guys. Actually, the flu network. I see Sirius using it much more as a means of communication than as actual access. I think Sirius wouldn't be able to use the flu network to physically transport himself to the place. But communication, which is how he uses it, I think that's okay, you know? Still, it's definitely a security flaw, but I know about the flu network. That was something the directors insisted on a lot. It's not connected in a way that you can transport yourself through it, you know? So, it's just for communication, really, says Kako. All right, my question is this. What would be the greatest pain you could feel in the wizarding world? A big hug to you and your family. Samuel, thank you for your kindness and question. The worst pain in the world, magical or not, is a kidney stone. You've had it before, right? I have too, a few times. That's why I have my water here. Even my left kidney is showing signs of a stone. Jokes aside, kidney pain is awful, but I think it's actually the Cruciatus curse, a magical pain. Otherwise, it's just real kidney pain. I love your creativity with small talk, because look at this, Rafa L, not Raflika. I never know how to read this person's name who sends these questions. They always send their name like this. I don't know if it's Raflca, Raflika. Which Hogwarts house for Silvio Santos? Just a random thought I had and decided to ask, as ChatG.pt mentioned. Hufflepuff. Loyalty, patience, hard work. Gryffindor. Courage, boldness. That's the summary. I'll add more later. When the video comes out, man, I honestly think Silvio Santos would be Slytherin. You know why? Silvio Santos was an ambitious guy, right? So much so that he built an empire there at SBT and all. I'm not saying ambitious in a negative way. No, to build something that big, it's not enough to just work hard, you have to have ambition too. So I think he was very ambitious. So I would put him in Slytherin. Pedro Diaz says, Kako, all right, and you? I have a question. If the secret keeper dies, what happens? Do you have to find another one? Or does the spell keep working even with the keeper dead? That's a really cool question, man. Because, like, when the secret keeper dies, the person they told the secret to becomes the new secret keeper. But what if, in this case, the secret keeper dies without having told the secret to anyone? Then the spell breaks, loses its power, and a new secret keeper is needed.
Honestly, we don't have the official answer, but what I believe happens is that the spell breaks.
Because if you didn't pass it on, if the secret keeper didn't pass the secret to someone else, there's no way to have another secret keeper. And what about it? The core of the Fidelius charm is to keep the secret inside a living soul. You get it? The Fidelius charm holds a secret that's protected within a person's soul. If the person dies, their soul goes to another stage of existence, right? They go to the afterlife.
So I think it's either the spell remains there forever or no one will ever discover it.
It's either the location or the secret itself. The protected ones will always be safe, or the spell ends up being undone. For me, those are the two options, you know? But what about you guys? What do you think? Is it more likely to break or to actually get stronger? Right there?
And no one can figure it out, because the spell will keep working there, since there are spells that break when their caster dies, right? In this case, the secret keeper isn't the one who casts the spell. But anyway, I was just giving an example, and Lucas Araujo asked the following. Hi Kako, how are you? I'm good, how about you? I read the books and watched the movies recently.
Your answers resolve many open questions. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Congrats on the channel and explaining the gaps in the books. My pleasure. The honor's mine. I had an impression about Severo, and I'd like to know your opinion. My impression is that the Dark Lord somehow respected him. He even considered, even if briefly, the request to spare Lillian while he killed Tiago without hesitation. In the end, do you think everything that happened next was because of Snape, or am I overthinking it, man? Wasn't it just because of Snape? But that definitely made a big difference, right? All the events in Harry Potter, they're the result of a combination of many consequences, of many actions, right? In this case, Voldemort only found out about the prophecy because of Snape too. So, you know, there are several factors that lead to it. But for sure, one of the factors that made Harry survive, it was the fact that Lily could choose to survive. And that choice came from Snape's request to Voldemort to spare Lily, that's for sure. Clondis Cardoso says, Kako, all good, how about you? I've loved Harry Potter since I was 9 and I'm rereading the books.
Thanks to your channel, you do an excellent job, my dear. Thank you very much.
My question is about the Flipendo spell, which appears in the games. What is its function, and has it ever appeared in the books?
Congrats on your family hugs, Lufano. Big hugs to you and the Hufflepuff folks. Flipendo. Classic spell, right?
Hey, anyone who played the Harry Potter games remembers Flipendo. And it's not only in the games, okay?
It was later made canon, appearing in the play Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which is the Cursed Child.
It shows up there too. It appears in Hogwarts Legacy, and Flipendo in the games, in the first games, like on PlayStation and so on. It was on PlayStation and PC.
It had kind of a general function, which was to deal damage to things, right? To kill creatures and so on.
In Hogwarts Legacy, it got a new look, and it creates a spinning effect. When you cast Flipendo, the target kind of spins. It gets knocked down, spinning, falling. It falls spinning. You get it? There's even a trophy required to platinum Hogwarts Legacy, right? You have to cast Flipendo on a cow, poor thing, just randomly, and then the cow spins, poor thing.
Anyway, that's what Flipendo is for, plus Cruz Lucina. Oh, okay. And you wanted to know how the merfolk were created?
They only exist in one place. They can attack muggles. They attack wizards if they get close to them. Very cool question. The merfolk originate from ancient Greece, but it's unclear how they came to be or if they were created. They simply appeared there. I really like to apply the theory of evolution to the world of magic.
Creatures appeared as the world was taking shape, and the merfolk emerged.
They must have appeared in this way, just like centaurs and many other beings, like goblins. Anyway, they don't live in just one place. There are freshwater merfolk, saltwater merfolk, those from warm water, from warmer waters. They are those beautiful mermaids from fairy tales. The cold water ones resemble what's seen in the lake during the Triwizard Tournament task, where they look less attractive, but they will attack if they are disturbed, right? They won't attack for no reason. They are a very peaceful civilization, but if they are in danger, they will definitely defend themselves.
Rafael Gonçalves says, Kako Beleza, congratulations on your work, best Harry Potter channel. Thank you, my dear. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Lillian's sacrificial protection worked only because Voldemort let her choose to survive.
Right. So how did Harry also manage to perform this protection since Voldemort never gave him that option?
That's the thing. It's not about giving the option. That's not the point. You're absolutely right in saying that Lily managed to create the protection because Voldemort gave her the option to survive. The point is having the option to survive, not someone giving it to you. For example, Voldemort gave James no choice and didn't even give Lily a chance. He said, "You don't have to die, I just want Harry." But she still chooses death.
Voldemort, in Harry's case, it's not that Voldemort gave him the choice, because it doesn't matter who gives the choice. It's about the person having the choice.
Harry definitely didn't have to turn himself in. He could have seen the memories in the pensive and said, "What? I'm turning myself in and leaving. Let these people handle it. They're on their own." But he chose to turn himself in. He didn't have to, but it was his choice to do it. That's the point.
It's not about Voldemort offering him survival, but about him having the option to avoid death and still choosing to surrender and accept it.
So that other people can be protected. That's the point, you know? That's why it works. Next question is from Mr. Roldini Ops. Oops, it disappeared. Just kidding, Kako. All good. How are you? I'm a big fan and have followed your channel since the parody of that one from Harry the Bad Guy. Wow, it's been a while, man. I'm casting a spell. Real fans remember that one. I don't think it's even on the channel now.
I took those things down because I was kind of embarrassed, but it was a parody of that song. Anyway, my question is,
can wizards be born with genetic conditions considered non-magical, like Down syndrome, Williams, Edwards, Cri du Chat, among other things?
Man, I believe not, and here's what I base that on.
There's a text about illnesses and disabilities in the wizarding world that makes it very clear, very well established, that wizards are affected. They can be affected by common illnesses, by common conditions, yes, but they are easily cured, reversed, and solved with magic.
What happens to wizards, like, for example? If a wizard, I don't know, develops cancer, let's use this simple example here. If the wizard develops a malignant cancer,
but it's a muggle thing, you know? He can heal himself with magic.
Now, if a wizard has some kind of illness that has a magical origin, then it gets more complicated. He won't be able to just heal it with magic.
That's why some wizards, like Alastor Moody, don't have limbs. He lost those limbs, he lost a leg, he lost an eye to dark spells, to evil spells. George, the same thing. He lost his ear to a dark spell. Snape's Sectum Sempra spell can't be healed, you know? He can't get a new ear from that.
And now, if a wizard has his arm cut off by, I don't know, a knife, a muggle knife, will he be able to make that arm grow back? Put it back in place?
I don't know. Will he be able to heal it, you know? So, anything that's of a mundane nature, a muggle nature, they'll be able to heal. But if it's of a magical nature, they won't always be able to heal it. They might be able to, but it'll require magical means for that, you know? Wizards don't catch colds because they lack those things. Gabriel Balstrin Haikako, congrats on the channel and thanks. Could an owl or a house elf find someone hidden by the Fidelius charm? Well, that's hard to answer because house elves have their own kind of magic, right? So, well, if a house elf can apparate into the cave, the Horcrux cave, where everything was protected, if Dobby can apparate into Malfoy Manor, which had spells, no one else could.
Maybe they can. Maybe. But that's just a big maybe. Because the only thing we have as a basis is this information, right? That they have different magic.
And seeing them manage to get in and out of places that wizards can't. So maybe I can't give you a definite yes, but it's a question that remains open now. Owls. Well, owls. They can find wizards anywhere. But if the wizard doesn't want to be found, the owl won't find them. So I think maybe owls can also find them. But the thing is, the owl doesn't talk. It doesn't give anything away, you know? Her? No, the owl. It's the least of the risks. The elf could pose a bigger risk, although the elf also wouldn't be able to reveal the location, because only the secret keeper can actually do that, whether it's a person or an elf. Even knowing where the place is, being able to go there, she can't say where it is, can't write it, can't do it. The spell protects exactly against that. Maybe, just maybe, I'll leave this as an answer, since there's no official one. Actually, that's the whole point of this chit-chat. It's for us to exchange ideas, to talk, to try to understand, to speculate.
It's not like I'm going to answer all the questions here with 100% certainty. Like, wow, every question solved and answered here. That's not what's going to happen.
There are things that aren't official, and I couldn't just say, this is how it is and that's it, because it's not official, you know?
So, we try to reach a common ground here, together, with me talking and you guys either agreeing or disagreeing, right?
Obviously, but that's the point of the small talk, because I see that sometimes new people show up and don't say anything. Like, oh, but he didn't answer. Yeah, if I don't have the answer, I'm not gonna make something up, right? I'm honest. I wanna be 100% honest with you. Always. You. If I don't know the answer, we try to speculate based on what we have here in the established universe, right? If it's a guess, we say so. If it's official, we say it's official. Otherwise, there's no point.
The next question is from Balupin. Hi, Kako. First, I would like to thank you. I lost my father, and your videos were a support for me.
Now, the question, are animals and creatures able to see thestrals? Bilupin, first of all, I would like to say that I'm very sorry for your loss, and if I may, with all due respect, with your permission, if I may paraphrase a line from Harry Potter here, it would be, those who love us never really leave us. They can always be found right here in our hearts. So, a big hug to you, a big kiss. Thank you for your affection. I'm glad that, in a way, Leaky Cauldron was a comfort to you in difficult times. I hope I can be with you in good times as well, and I'll always be here. Now, answering your question, are creatures and animals able to see thestrals? I mean beings like centaurs, elves, and goblins. They have intelligence similar to or greater than that of humans, and they have an understanding of things.
Maybe those beings can see them, but as for animals like, a dog, for example, I don't know if they would have any reason to see them.
The thestral is really about understanding, right? It's for those who witnessed death, saw someone dying, understood what happened, processed it, then they can see a thestral, right? I'm not sure if a dog needs to go through that process of understanding. I'm just using a dog as an example, okay?
Maybe they just see them because they don't need to go through that understanding or even witness death or anything like that. Maybe it's because animals are super pure, right?
Now, I think this thing about seeing thestrals, since it comes a lot from understanding, requires a deeper processing. For those who are able to synthesize, to reason, not just reason, but to process, this understanding was worth a big kiss.
Nox 2187. Hi, Kako. How are you? How are you? And you. Although it's not mentioned in the books, do you think it would be possible for a wand to have more than one core or more than one type of wood?
I know the wand's core and wood are key to its uniqueness, but is it possible? Look, maybe it's possible, but would it be recommended? Wouldn't the cores cause some kind of conflict? To produce or channel magic with that wand, 2, 3, or even 4 types of wood might work. Now, how stable would that be? How recommended would that be? I'll say it again, this is just my speculation.
Maybe it's possible. Maybe there's no information. At least that I remember. Not that I remember. There's no information of different wood, of 2 different woods, 2 different cores in the same wand. But maybe it's possible. It's just not recommended.
Betania Mendez asked, so is everything okay? Everything's okay. How about you? Why didn't Dumbledore himself teach defense against the dark arts, instead of letting the Ministry choose someone? Since he was seen as one of the most powerful against the dark arts? That's a great and sensible question. And my answer is simply that I have no idea. Well, that's what I think, okay? I'm not sure if it would be interesting for Dumbledore to teach defense against the dark arts then, for the simple reason that he was very focused on Voldemort's return. The return of, well, okay, he was. Teaching classes there would be something that would help, right? Because it would prepare the students. But I think that would take up a lot of his time. He would have to be there, teaching the classes, and that would keep him from doing other things he might need to do. Maybe that's not it. That's just something I think. But it could also be, what? Maybe he just left it like that. Oh, the Ministry chose. Okay, let's let the Ministry choose.
Because he knew things would go wrong. Dumbledore works a lot. He knew it. Both he and Harry were telling the truth about everything. So, when people are messing up, the Ministry messing up, they were lying, they were trying to manipulate. Sooner or later it would come to light, and then he let it happen. Maybe I think it was to really come to light and prove that they were right, you know? Maybe that could have been it. That's it.
It was a way for him to show that the ministry was wrong in this matter, and then try to gain more strength to fight against Voldemort.
But that's just a macho attitude, okay?
Marcio Tulio Botelho sent the following. Hey, Kako, how are you? Send a shout out to the people here from Pedra Azul, Minas Gerais. A big shout out to everyone there in Pedra Azul, Minas Gerais. Minas Gerais is wonderful, and I love it. My wife's family is from there. Sending love to everyone from Minas Gerais, watching caldeiraofurado. Now, let's answer his question. Why don't wizards use spells to boost their physical abilities, like strength and speed? Also, sorry about that. I'll compare Dumbledore and Godric Gryffindor's power. Thanks, Marco. Also, I wonder why wizards don't use them.
Maybe it's not interesting for them to improve their attributes with magic, with spells.
Because, in the end, they know that true power comes from the knowledge you acquire, from the training you have, right? Nothing magically gets better. I mean, in people, personally, right? Nothing magically gets better. So, maybe that's why they know it's useless to try to attribute anything to attribute improvement, right? On that note now, who was more powerful, Dumbledore or Godric Gryffindor? We can't know either, since they're wizards born nearly 1,000 years apart and didn't live at the same time, right? So, Godric Gryffindor was a great wizard in his time, and we know very little about him. We know very little compared to what we know about Dumbledore. That being said, if Godric Gryffindor was considered one of the greatest wizards of his time, it's not for nothing, right? Like Dumbledore, he was considered one of the greatest wizards of his era, perhaps the greatest during his lifetime. So, there's no way we can make that comparison. At least I'm being very honest, man. I'm very honest. I can't make that comparison. We don't have a reference point, so we can't know. What about you? Who do you think was more powerful?
You can leave it here in the comments and defend your point of view. Feel free. Lorena. Hi, Kako, how are you? How are you? And you, I have a question. Are there aquatic animagi?
Does the transformed person have to remain in the water the entire time? As an animagus, so I don't die. I went through the process to become an animagus and turned into a dolphin. Do I have to stay only in the water?
So that's a great question since wizards can't pick their animagus forms, right? So yes, if he's a wizard, he'd be an aquatic animagus. Man, he needs to be in the water. So if he doesn't stay in the water and the transformation is into an animal that depends on water, it's going to be bad. It's probably going to be bad, right? It's not an official answer. That's because we don't have examples. But I believe it is. I believe it is because the animagus transforms into the animal and he has that.
The only thing he keeps when transformed is his human consciousness, but he has the form of the animal. It's just his consciousness that stays human, you know? My daughter opened the door over there, looked in, and was trying to close it, but she couldn't reach the handle to close it, so she was there. But in any case, right? If he turned into a dolphin, for example, it wouldn't be a problem, because dolphins are mammals and they breathe air through their lungs, just like we do. So he has to come up to the surface. That's why he has that little hole there to breathe.
So if it were a dolphin or whale, it would be fine. But if it were a shark, it would be complicated since sharks are fish and breathe differently. A dolphin would be all good.
Lavi, LG Pitbull, he asked. Hey Kako, how are you? Especially on the day Harry and Dumbledore visit former Professor Horace Slughorn's house, and he says he has no prejudice against Muggleborns. So why does his family's name appear in the Sacred 28, where everyone thinks they're traitors to the Sacred 28?
But I know that Horace is prejudiced against Muggleborns. It's the same as thinking that Neville has this prejudice.
Because the Longbottom family is also listed there. The Weasleys themselves are listed there, and they're against it, so it doesn't mean much. You know, there are a lot of names there that really are prejudiced, but that's not the case with Slughorn. Eduardo Stack, hey wizard, how's it going? Good, and you? In Order of the Phoenix, there's a passage that says Lily used to come back from Hogwarts doing magic tricks. So, doesn't Petunia not suspecting Harry during the summer between Harry Potter 1 and 2 relate to that? I'm a big fan. Thanks for the channel and your affection, my dear. Let me understand your question. Lily used to return from Hogwarts performing magic tricks.
Okay, but doesn't Petunia not suspecting Harry during the summer between years 2 and 3 relate to that? Not suspecting Harry. Not suspecting what?
Between the summer of books 1 and 2, which, in this case, is the vacation after Harry's first year at Hogwarts, before the start of the second school year. I really didn't understand the question, man, and I'm feeling kind of dumb because of it. Oh, okay, I get it. All right, cool. Now I understand. You're saying I think this is about the video where I discuss confusing things, right? And now you're mentioning Petunia?
Not thinking Harry couldn't do magic, right? Just about Walter finding out from the letter and being surprised, okay?
That's a point. The fact that she saw her sister doing magic and didn't even suspect that Harry could do it too. That's a point. Maybe. Was that it? That's what you meant, right? If so, yeah, that could be a point. Pretty cool. Kyor, 273, says Kako, what's up? And you? If a wizard goes to Azkaban, their wand is confiscated by the Ministry. Right. He could use non-verbal spells or his hands to defend himself from Dementors and attack walls, for example. Or is there a block to performing magic in there, man? For sure, Azkaban has protection spells. That's for sure. But the wizards, when they get there, they become so incapacitated, they're so affected by the Dementors, that they become unable. They become weak.
So, to perform magic, performing magic with your hands is already something extremely specific, extremely rare.
Dumbledore is one of the few we know who can cast spells without a wand. But for sure there must be spells there, so it's a combination of things. Sirius himself, when he had the motivation, he transformed into an animagus without a wand. So when he saw the motivation to escape, he transformed into an animagus. He goes through the cell and is out like a kite on a string.
Manito asked the following. Hello, Kako. I'd like to know if you know of any illustrated versions of all the Harry Potter books, and if there's any animated series based on the books.
Also, my dear, there isn't an animated series of Harry Potter, but illustrated books do exist, yes.
There are 2 versions. The Jim K version, which is a bit larger, and the Minalima version, which is more interactive. The Jim K one, it's only illustrated. It stopped at the 5th book, and the 6th book will be released in October of this year, 2026. And the Minalima one went up to the 3rd book, Prisoner of Azkaban, and the 4th book continued with another illustrator. So, the collection will continue as far as we know, but without Minalima. There are only 2 illustrated versions I remember. I don't think there are others. There are different editions, but none with illustrations inside. There are chapter illustrations in the classic North American editions. But that's it. They're not illustrations like I imagine you're asking about. Henrique Potter. Hey Kako, all good. Henrique Potter. I wanted to know which scene from the movies you hate the most, and which one you like the most. And from the books too?
The movie scene I hate most is when Voldemort and Harry jump off the cliff and Voldemort turns to dust at the end. That's easily number 1. Now, the scene I like the most from the books also involves the movie. Actually, the scene I like the most from the movie also involves the Great Voldemort, which is his return in Goblet of Fire.
For me, that scene is outstanding. It's one of the best, if not the best scene in all the movies. For me, it's Voldemort's return, from the moment they step into the cemetery until the moment they leave. That scene is the best. Now, from the books, man, the worst scene from the books. I can't think of a worse scene from the books right now, but there's a scene I really like in the books. But it's not the best. It's not the best of all. It's hard to choose the best scene from all the books. But one scene I really like is the moment when they're in the cave, Dumbledore and Harry, and then Harry says to him, "Don't worry, Headmaster, we're almost there." And then Dumbledore says, "I'm not worried, Harry, I'm with you." Man, this might be simple, but it shows the evolution of the story, Harry's growth, and how Dumbledore changes too. He had this power, this ability that even though he was extremely powerful, he could still be humble, you know? He could do that. "I'm not worried, Harry. Being with you is really cool. This is now one of my favorites."
Favorite scene from the book is that the thing about the favorite scene from the book is that it doesn't always have the same context as the scene from the movie, because in the movie it's very visual.
So, what gets us in the scene, at least for me, what gets us in the movie scene, is a combination of things. The excerpt from the book covers the event, the dialogue, and what's happening, so it might not always be grand. Still, I'll share this moment from the book. Now, the part I like least in the book, I can't think of any. The one I like least. Yeah, I can't. But that's it. Thanks. José Inocencio created the first Horcrux before J.K. in the soap opera Renacer from 1993. José Inocencio. That name sounds familiar. Let me check. I don't really watch soap operas.
I watched A Viagem as a kid on Vele, a Pena Verde Novo with my mom and loved it.
In the soap opera Renacer, José Inocencio is the main patriarch who becomes wealthy by planting cocoa. He's the one with the little devil in the bottle, right? Let me check.
Pact with the Jequitiba, José Inocencio symbolically bonds with the giant sacred Jequitiba tree, believing his life is tied to it.
As long as the Jequitiba stands, he lives too. The tree acts as a protector, connecting man and nature. The story with the little devil in the bottle is different. All right, are you saying that's settled? José Inocencio created the first crux before anything else. His soul was connected to the tree, so Kawe sent the following. Hey, how are you? How are you? And you? My question is this. If Lumos is a spell, why wasn't Harry expelled from Hogwarts when he used it? Afonso Cuarón, see what you did? Everyone says Prisoner of Azkaban is the best movie, but no one talks about it. Nobody mentions that Cuarón had Harry doing a Lumos there as homework. It makes no sense, because Harry can't use magic outside of school, right? That's just something the movie made up, my friend. Paulo André Araujo. Hey, Kako, how are you? When we transfigure an object, it keeps its original characteristics.
In the case of food, it would be possible to transfigure healthy food into something tastier, but still keep the nutritional value of the original food.
What would it taste like? Expensive? These are tough questions, since the field is unexplored. We do know the fifth exception to Gamp's law. You can't create good food from nothing.
You can multiply food. If you have the food right in front of you, you can increase the size of the food. If you have the food there, you can summon the food.
If you know where it is, you can't create good food from nothing, but changing one food into another. I don't know if that's possible or if it would break this law. And so it's a field that's a very difficult field for us to go through. Because we don't have information about it, you know? But it's food.
It keeps the transfigured objects. It will keep them there, depending on the object. It will keep the essence of the original. You know, the appearance will be different, but the essence will be from the original.
Hey, what's up, Kako? I started rereading the books a while ago, and I ended up with a kind of random question.
If Hermione didn't own an owl, how did she send letters to Harry and Ron? Can you rent owls in that world?
Muggle, hugs. Congrats on your work. Thanks, Dan. Take care. Thanks, man. Hermione actually didn't have an owl, but she used the owls that came to her as a response, right? She used Ron's owl. She used Vigis's own owl. And then, later, what about when she wanted to send a letter that wasn't a reply? That's a mystery. If she wasn't at Hogwarts, I'm not sure how she managed. But at Hogwarts, she used the school's owls, since students can borrow them from the owlery. Bruno Kaliwi, hi. Kako, how are you? How are you? How's the future Hufflepuff girl? Look, Katarina isn't a Hufflepuff, okay? She said she's a Ravenclaw. She claims her house is the Blue House, so let's see how long that lasts. She says she's from the Blue House, CACO. I have two personal questions. All right, if the boggart saw you, what would it turn into? And if you looked in the mirror of Erised, what would you see? Well, boggart, without a doubt, anything bad happening to my daughter. Anything bad involving my daughter. Family, for sure. Like, for sure. Like, well, Mrs. Weasley there, you know? Now, the mirror of Erised. Man, the mirror of Erised, it's complicated because I'm really happy. But I have dreams and I have goals. But I don't know if those goals, they'd be such strong desires they'd show up in the mirror of Erised, you know? The mirror of Erised.
It shows the deepest desire of the heart, but in a way, you know, like maybe something unattainable.
All right, Ron, he sees himself he has a simple desire, right? Which is like, well, recognition, being captain, he looked good, holding the house cup, a certain recognition, right? Because his brothers always overshadowed him. He lived in Harry's shadow. Maybe he'd show up, I don't know. I wanted that. A big dream I have is to build my own house. You know, just the way we want it. The way my wife and I dream. The way we imagine it. To leave it for Katarina, or even do something for Katarina, it would be something like that. You know, something along those lines. What about you? What would your boggart become? And what would you see in the mirror of Erased? For me, Gigelovegood asked, "Hey Kako, how are you?" "I'm good. And you?" "I'm good too." Already answered. Look, sending it.
1 week after the second 100 questions video, let's see when it will be answered. Look, the second 100 questions video is out.
If I'm not mistaken, in February 2025, if I'm not mistaken, but let's go, it's being answered now, in 2026. In the Harry Potter universe, what left you most confused? Like something that took a while to make sense, that was hard to understand, needed more study. Look, it's not that it took me a while to understand, but I just didn't get it. Right away, I reread that part a few times, like, I was just like Nazare doing the math. It was the whole blood protection thing, you know, with Harry at the end, Harry not dying and all, and understanding the concept of the Master of Death. That was also, I think it was the most, I wouldn't say the one I was most confused about, but it was the one I didn't understand.
Right away, I didn't get it. Like, as I was reading, I didn't understand it immediately. No, I was like, wait, huh? I had to stop and think, and then like, oh, it makes sense, okay. That was Gigi here again. Look, Gigi, Lovegood, Gigi, Kako. It's me again, with a question from someone who's bad at genetics, okay?
Same here. If magic can skip generations, would it be possible for Dudley to be born a wizard? Not just him, but his descendants too, like a grandson, for example. That's how magic works. There was a possibility, according to J.K. Rowling. She even said that she had the idea of Dudley's son being a wizard. That would be really cool. She had the idea of Dudley's son being a wizard, but she said that the magical gene that was in Petunia, the one that was awakened in Lily, right? But not in Petunia. But she still carried this gene, right? And it was passed on to Dudley. In this case, she said that no magical gene would survive in contact with Walter Dursley's DNA. That's why she changed her mind about Dudley's son being a wizard, because that's how it happens. Look, there's Bruno Colli again. Hey Kako, how are you? All good, it's you. For years I've wanted to know exactly how it is. Is arithmancy like Muggle math? What exactly is it? What's the purpose of the subject? And what do the students actually learn? Man, arithmancy is kind of like, it's not really divination, okay? But it's about probability. It's through numbers, you know? It's a thing about probabilities. In arithmancy, they study the magical properties of numbers. For example, how numerical patterns influence things. Probabilities through numbers. The relationship of numbers with names, dates, events, and so on. It's kind of mystical, but with numbers, and it's completely grounded, unlike divination, which is very vague, you know? Emerson Felipe says, Kako, hey, how are you? Congratulations on your work. Thank you so much, my friend. I've never read the books, and my question is, how did Regulus Black discover the secret of the Horcrux, and where the locket was hidden, man? How did Regulus Black find out? Because when the creature finishes doing, well, it's a long story, there's a video here about the creature's story, that I recommend you watch. It's right here in the card. But I'll try to sum it up very briefly. Voldemort asks one of his followers to lend him a house elf to test something. And Regulus is happy and goes there and lends him the creature. But when the creature arrives, Voldemort just abandons him to die after drinking the potion there and being tortured. But Regulus gave him a very clear order. Do what the Dark Lord asked. After you're done, come back home. And then, the creature apparated from the cave where the Horcrux was hidden after finishing his task, though Voldemort left him there to die. However, the elf's magic is different from a wizard's, and Voldemort didn't expect him to escape. But he escapes, disapparates home, and tells Regulus everything. Regulus, however, was already starting to regret becoming a Death Eater and didn't feel the same anymore. And then the creature tells him, and then he goes and decides to try to destroy Voldemort. And then he goes to the cave with the elf. The elf takes him there, and there he finds the locket, duplicates it and makes a fake one, and puts it there. But he drinks the potion so the creature doesn't have to, because the creature had already drunk it and suffered, so he drinks the potion and stays there to die.
He tells the creature to leave, save itself, and do everything possible to destroy the locket. That's what happens.
Emerson Felipe, another question from him says, Kako, okay, who are the most powerful Death Eaters, and who are the most powerful Aurors? Man, this thing about power is very relative. Very, very relative. We have some highly dedicated Death Eaters, like Barty Crouch Jr., who was on another level. Bellatrix as well, right?
Aurors. Alastor Moody is undoubtedly the most famous and recognized Auror ever.
But measuring power is something that, like, you can't really do, you know? In Harry Potter, it's just their power, because power isn't just magical power. It's about how much they study, learn, train, and their dedication. Like wizards in Harry Potter, power comes from effort, not just being born with it.
Some have more aptitude for certain things, and others don't develop as well. Others just don't.
But like, the Aurors, the best, for sure. Alastor Moody, let me see who else. Kingsglaive Shacklebolt and Tonks, a metamorph magus, were both great Aurors. And Death Eaters. I think those ones, Bellatrix and Bertocroft Jr., and I think Dolohov too. Dolohov was really good. Really, he was very capable. Amanda Ray said, "Hi, Kako. I admire your work and your great videos." Thank you, Kako. If the basilisk's fang destroys Horcruxes, why doesn't the part of Voldemort's soul that lived in Harry die in the Chamber of Secrets when he is injured? Kisses to Katarina. She's very cute. Thank you for the affection.
And that was the first question I answered in the first episode of Offbeat. Can you believe it? On this channel? Years ago? It was the first one I answered, and I've answered it several times since. But that's okay. Of course, it's expected to have repeated questions on Offbeat, especially in the 100 questions episode. If I can't remember the questions I've already answered, imagine you guys, right? For the Horcrux to be destroyed, Harry had to die. Since he survived, the Phoenix healed his wound and he lived. The Horcrux wasn't destroyed. To destroy one, its container must be irreparably damaged. Do you understand now when a Horcrux is destroyed? There, in Deathly Hallows, when Voldemort hits Harry with the Avada Kedavra. In that case, Harry actually died. So much so that he has the choice whether to move on or to come back. That's why the Horcrux was destroyed. At that moment, Harry returns and chooses to continue because he was stuck, alive. But is that really why? Valerie asked, "Kako, how are you?"
We know that Dementors are the personification of depression, so following that logic, could Obscurials also be a personification? Since there are mental disorders that can be caused by trauma and make the person have episodes like what happened with Ariana, it's a good analogy, it's a good observation, and maybe, yes, maybe that's the case.
We don't have anything officially stated with Dementors. We have it officially stated because the author said, look, Dementors represent depression. But with Obscurials, we don't. It really has that vibe, right? But we don't have anything official about what it represents. But it's a very consistent interpretation, Bobby Hampazi said.
Hey Kako, I hope all is well. Sending love to you and your beautiful family, plus a kiss and purple heart.
I wanted to know how werewolves are portrayed in Harry Potter, their appearance, if they're beings or not, and if it's possible for someone to be turned into a vampire. Just like werewolves, that's how werewolves are portrayed. The appearance of the werewolf in the books is very similar to that of a regular wolf.
It has a few small differences, like a slightly shorter snout and slightly bigger eyes, right?
The eyes look more human. Those are some of the characteristics. They are now considered beings. By the way, there is the division of beasts, because the werewolf, it's just... Actually, that's a question at the beginning of the book Fantastic Beasts. What is a werewolf? Is it a being or is it an animal? After all, for 30 days, he's an ordinary human. And then, on a single night, he's an uncontrollable beast. So what is he, how is he defined? You know, how do you define the werewolf? There's the division of beasts, where the werewolf fits in, but ethically, he's considered a being. Vampires are another thing, something we've barely explored in the Harry Potter universe. But I believe it's possible, I do think so, that vampires can turn other beings into vampires as well. The author said she didn't add vampires to the wizarding world because vampire folklore was already rich and well established. So, we can believe that vampires more or less follow the pattern of the stories that already exist. You know? So, maybe yes. The next question is from Gigalette, who says, Keiko, I love your work. Thank you so much, Kako. A couple of dark wizards. If they turned each other into their respective Horcruxes, would they be immortal, since one couldn't die as long as the other was alive? Well, they would be immortal until someone found out and destroyed their Horcruxes, right? But there's something you need to keep in mind. There's no such thing as immortality. you can't really have immortality because something will always go wrong. You know, making Horcruxes, especially creating a Horcrux, man, that's a heavy thing. You know? So the person who does that, they're not doing it just to stay there.
Oh, I'm just making a Horcrux to live peacefully here. It's someone who ultimately seeks their own end, you know?
Their actions are driven by power and possessions. People like that don't last long, which I also see as a flaw. I don't think it would work. Next is a question from Slithering Not Bad. I liked it. Hello, how are you? How's the family? Thanks. Here's the question. Some time ago, during the Battle of Hogwarts, Kingsley Shacklebolt expelled the Dementors from Azkaban, right? Where did they go? Wouldn't Dementors roaming free after wizards and muggles be dangerous, since they feed on happiness? Well, Dementors, just as they are born from human emotions, they also cease to exist because of human emotions. The right environment for Dementors to be born, that was Azkaban, right? Filled with suffering and despair, it was a haven for Dementors, who kept multiplying like fungi, right? They don't reproduce. They're born from human emotions and are non-beings. Now, if they get rid of them, if they remove the Dementors from Azkaban, the conditions in Azkaban become more humane for the prisoners. It's Aurors who handle the security. The wizarding war is over, the wizarding population, they're more relieved, they're happy, they're not in that depressive state anymore and all that. So, the likelihood of Dementors appearing is very small, and the chance of the existing Dementors remaining is also very small. So, they start to cease to exist, you know? It's not that they disappear completely, but the large number of them starts to cease to exist. Just like they appear, they cease to exist. Keiko, was Lily's protection spell done on purpose? Did she really know it would be cast and protect Harry? Or was it done unintentionally when she sacrificed herself for Harry? Man, she didn't know. At least when Voldemort says that Lily gave her life for her son, she gave him protection without knowing she was doing it. Now, I don't know if Voldemort doesn't understand, right? He doesn't understand love for him. He might have thought, wow, she gave her life to save him. How stupid, what a fool. Gave her life, wow, died for that, you know? She may have gone there unintentionally and offered protection. Maybe that's how he sees it, or maybe she knew. She made a sacrifice there, really intending to create a very strong protection there. For Harry, we don't know. Oscar Torres asked, "Hey wizard, how's it going?" "I'm good. How about you? I'd like you to explain to me better how and why Arthur Weasley's car ended up in the forest." And in a way, it developed a will of its own. That said, it stayed there, then went back home, man. Enchanted objects can show strange behaviors, especially Mr. Weasley's car. It somehow developed a personality. It went into the forest, it stayed there, and it's still there. I don't know if it was rescued, it's just there. At least there's no mention of it being rescued. Bruninho asked. Caquinho wanted to make a suggestion for a segment. Oh, okay, it's a suggestion, not a question. Reading the Harry Potter books with Kako. In each video, you would narrate the events of the books. 1 book per video. Wow, 1 book per video. Okay, that would be really long, right? A 30-hour video. To avoid making it too long, you could summarize each chapter. It could be a special about an hour and a half long. So, Bruninho, when you sent this, Magia Illustrata probably didn't exist yet. That's the series where I read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Is it here? And there are the illustrations that show up, the original illustrations made for this series, that keep appearing. On the screen with the events, by the way. I haven't abandoned it. Magia Illustrata is happening this month with at least 2 episodes planned. Thanks for the suggestion, but it's already underway. And guys, Magia Illustrata for the Philosopher's Stone will probably be the last one. I don't know if I'll be able to continue. It's good. I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to keep going. The series, The Philosopher's Stone, I'll finish it. But the series, I don't know if I'll continue. Golden Quain 2499, about the error with the dates in the books. I believe so, but I haven't confirmed it. Using the calendar, whatever, simply because J.K. Rowling was using the calendar of the year she wrote it, not the year in which the story takes place. That makes sense, since old calendars were hard to access then. Maybe that's it. Mateus Paludeto Kako, a question just came to my mind. Now, I don't know if it shows up in The Cursed Child, but Hermione had a time turner. Could she still be using the time turner for ministry work? If so, how old is she now? Best wishes to your family, Mateus. All time turners were destroyed in the Battle of the Department of Mysteries. Hermione didn't keep hers. There's a time turner in The Cursed Child, but it ends up confiscated after causing a lot of trouble. But no, she doesn't have a time turner to do her homework. She doesn't. And we've reached question number 50 halfway. Look at that. It took 73 minutes of video. Kako. At the beginning of the 8th movie, we see that the trio has Bellatrix's wand, identified by Ollivander. When the trio and the group enter Gringotts in disguise, a goblin asks to see the wand for identification. Why didn't Hermione show the wand at the bank? Because Bellatrix's wand was known to be stolen and it was a trap. They wanted her to show it. Look, we have the wand. See? It's me. When everyone had already been warned, the bank was taken over by wizards. There were employees. Wizards there, right?
Goblins didn't like it. So many left, including Grandpa. They knew she was an imposter, which is why she hides the wand.
And our next question is from Felipe Coccolo. Hey, Kako, how are you? I was a bit curious. Hope you're well. How about you?
When a Muggle-born is called to go to Hogwarts and has to buy their supplies, they have to exchange their money for some wizard money at Gringotts. Right. What do you think the goblins do with Muggle money, man? They must do something to circulate that money, right? Return the money to the Muggles. And for that to somehow be a transaction that generates profit for the bank or something like that, I don't know how they do it. The next question is also from Philippa Coccolo, and he said, the goblins at Gringotts exchange Muggle money for wizard money, which is used in the magical world, right? Right. What do they do with the Muggle money? Ignore the other question. It didn't make sense. Wait, actually it did make sense. It's the same question, and thanks to Philippa Coccolo, this will now be a pointless chat answering 99 questions. Are you happy? Look what you did to me. No, I get it. There will be 2 questions. Here's the first one.
You asked if they exchange, and now you confirm they do. So what do they do with the money? The previous answer still applies.
Andrea Fernanda, would it be possible for Dumbledore to use legilimency on baby Harry to find out what happened when Voldemort attacked the Potter family?
I think it's very complex. I think it's very, very unlikely for that to happen, because legilimency is nothing more than visiting the layers of the mind, interpreting the things that happened. So, if you enter the mind of a baby, you're going to see things, but not things that a baby saw. It's not like it's recorded there the way the baby saw it, as if it were a cassette tape, a recording that was saved in the baby's mind. It's about what the baby interprets. So the baby,
he has no idea what's going on or what happened there, so you won't just enter and see exactly what happened. That's not how legilimency works.
Andrea Fernanda sent another question, asking if Sirius's mother knew about the use of Grimmauld Place in Harry Potter 5 and 7. Why? Didn't she tell anyone if the portraits could go to other places? Because the house was under Fidelius' charms, so she wouldn't be able to tell anyone. Naluviera says, Kako, all good, and you? What would happen if Petunia refused to have Harry living in her house? Dumbledore would follow Minerva's suggestion and take care of the boy himself.
Thank you for keeping my love for the wizarding world alive. I love your work and appreciate your affection. Sending kisses to you and your family. So, what would happen?
We can't say exactly, right? But Harry would have to stay with someone. Someone would have to take care of him. I don't know if you've seen it, but there are some videos.
I can't even believe I'm going to talk about these videos, because they're kind of weird videos, made with artificial intelligence. You know, those videos made with artificial intelligence?
Kind of cheesy. They're those what if Harry Potter videos. Like what if? And then there are several like that.
Oh, what if Harry was raised by Snape, Minerva, Dumbledore, or the Weasleys? There are several stories like that.
The other day, I caught myself watching it. I spent an incredible 40 minutes of my life watching that crap, and I was like, okay, it's actually kind of cool. The whole what if thing is fun to imagine, but the videos are kind of weird. On Louviera, too. Kako, how are you? I'm good, and can you clear something up for me? Why did basilisk venom strengthen the blade of Gryffindor's sword? Was it only the basilisk venom that had this property, or were there other things that could strengthen it? That was done on purpose by the goblins. Hugs to your family. Hugs to you too.
It wasn't just the venom that strengthened the sword.
It absorbed anything that could strengthen it. Anything. Absolutely anything. This is a magical property of metals enchanted by goblins, so it was strengthened by anything that could make it stronger. Naluviera sent another one. Look at this. Hey, Kako, how are you? I'm good, and you? How did Slughorn alter his memories? Did he use a spell, a potion for that? Or is that one of the possibilities of occlumency? How does a kiss work for you and your little witch? Thanks. He altered it with his own mind. It's not a spell. It's not a potion. Nothing like that.
No, at least not that we know of, right? But it was him. Out of shame and wanting to hide it, he shaped it himself.
How many times do we rewrite situations in our own heads to make them pleasant for us, for our ego, the way we would like them to be? You can say it. Everyone does this. There's no one who doesn't. It's normal, more common than it seems. But sometimes we try to escape reality, right? And we try to shape it somehow to make it more appealing, especially when it's things we think are unfair to us. You know, things like that anyway. But he changed on his own.
Lou sent one more, her last, she promises. She rented the small talk space just for herself. Just kidding, Lou. Thanks for the questions, she said.
Can a ghost stop being a ghost and move on to the afterlife? I thought of that when you said a Horcrux could be undone with real remorse. Love your channel. Thank you, Lou, for your kindness, questions, and sorry for the jokes.
No, a ghost can't stop being a ghost. It's a one-way choice. ANAVIEIRA. And then, Kako, how are you?
Watching another episode of Offbeat, are you? I saw you commenting that the snake conjured by Draco in the Chamber of Secrets was just an imitation of a real serpent. If it attacked Justin, would he feel the effects of the venom, or would it be a harmless bite? Kisses. Yeah, if it's an imitation, it might be able to attack, but I don't think it would have the same effect as a real snake. Hi Mari Neves and Kako. I'm a big fan of the channel. Thanks for your kindness. A kind of silly question, but I've always wondered, in the magical world, all the paintings move and they're always based on real people. In that sense, did the fat lady actually exist? Is there anything known about her? Kisses to Risa and Katarina. Kisses to you too, dear. Yes, the paintings are based on real people. The fat lady likely existed, but absolutely nothing is known about her. The paintings, they're portraits of people who receive a spell that animates them, that makes them come to life. And so, if the painting
isn't enchanted, it won't move, but most do. Luis Gustavo. Hey, Kako, how are you? The family is well, thanks. I have a question.
When someone faces the challenges of the Philosopher's Stone, they reappear because the trio goes in there after Quirrell has already gone through the challenges.
A hug from Ravenclaw. A big hug to all the Ravenclaws out there. And that's a very, very sensible question. Well, it seems that in some cases, yes, and in others, no.
And it seems to be a bit of a convenience for the story, right? Because the troll is already unconscious when they go past it, which is one of the challenges there. Quirrell had already been there and defeated the troll, so it was unconscious. Next were the other challenges, like the chess game. It's been reset. The keys, including the door key, are back with the others. The broom is there, and the potions are reset too. So, I don't know, maybe since the troll is a living creature, it just stayed there, knocked out, and that's it, while the others reset themselves. That's probably what happens in the game. Hogwarts Legacy. They touch on the concept of ancient magic. Magic capable of things that, until now, we don't have answers for. Do you think it could have been used to create basilisks, pensive, the veils to the world of the dead, and time magic? Dude, good question. In Hogwarts Legacy, we see ancient magic, but honestly, there's no way to know. I can't answer that.
It could be. Maybe ancient magic is involved, but some things aren't.
Time travel isn't possible, since it's just a simple, unstable spell that only lets you go back an hour and is controlled by the hourglass. That's why we use the time turner now.
Veil. The pensive is powerful, but not the basilisk.
It is created from a very simple experiment, to be honest, which is putting a frog to hatch a chicken's egg, or a toad to hatch a chicken's egg. This results in a basilisk, but the veil, pensive and such, I don't know. I think the pensive is the most suitable. I think it's the one that draws more, to this thing of ancient magic.
There's no official answer. Hi, Kako. How are you? Sorry, I forgot to say your name.
Mila, Mill. Hi, Kako. How are you? How are you? And you would like to know when the Fidelius charm, which protected the Potters, was created.
I always believed it was before Harry was born, right after the prophecy. But if that's true, why did Wormtail take more than a year to give their location to Voldemort? Thanks, man. I think it was before Harry was born. It was right after they found out about the prophecy. There's a theory that, as fans, we have to admit some things. Even about J.K. Rowling, she was really bad with time. With time, even with calculations, she was really bad at that. You know, like, there are things that, for example, Harry himself, Voldemort kills the Potters. Hagrid picks up Harry there and spends, like, a whole day. Where was Hagrid? You know, like that. These are things that maybe can be fixed with the series or explained, right? But J.K. Rowling really had a problem with dates, man. So much so that even some books were corrected. Some things, like Nearly Headless Nick's Death Day, which in the original edition of the book, the first one published, was in Philosopher's Stone.
It said that he hadn't eaten for almost 400, like, give him a lozenge or something. Temmer was saying that he hadn't eaten for almost 400 years.
Then, in the next book, he was celebrating his 500th death day. You know? Later, it was corrected in the first book. In the later editions, they fixed it to 500 years. So yeah, she was bad with dates. So yeah. I don't know if that's the case, but there's also a very interesting theory that Voldemort was trying to get the Sword of Godric Gryffindor to turn it into a Horcrux.
And since he wasn't a real Gryffindor, he was actually from Slytherin, right?
The sword wouldn't appear for him. He had to create a real Gryffindor's need, so it took time. Voldemort was very methodical, right? He wanted to transform and tried to do it. The book even says Dumbledore mentioned he couldn't make the Horcrux with the Sword of Gryffindor. I think he wanted to do it with his own important death, Dumbledore's. He tells Harry this, leading to the theory. I don't know if that's really what it is, if he took so long because of that, or if it was just a date mistake. Even with the time difference, it ended up happening. I prefer to go with the theory, which is much more interesting. DKKKJ asked, "Hello, Kako. I've watched you since 2020. Thank you. I'd be honored if you answered my question. The moment is here. Anyway, if Harry had a child while he was a Parselmouth because of the piece of Voldemort's soul, would it be possible for his child to be a Parselmouth? I don't think so, okay? I don't think so, since Harry was a Parselmouth only because part of Voldemort's soul was in him. I don't think that was really a part of Harry, so there wouldn't be any reason for him to pass that on, you know? So, even if he still had part of Voldemort inside him, I don't think it would happen. Emanuele, if Harry had let the memory of Voldemort kill him in the Chamber of Secrets, he would have freed himself from Voldemort's soul. Yes, if Harry died, the Horcrux in him would be destroyed. If that's your question, yes.
Rodriguez, hi Kako, how are you? All good. The question is,
wouldn't the practical lesson with the boggart be dangerous, since it could turn into a dark creature, like the basilisk?
What if someone was afraid and it caused the death of its victim?
He put the date of the question here. Look, open parentheses. Date of the question, October 6, 2024.
Happy 2026 smiley faces. I'm not kidding. That's the question.
AG Rodriguez already knows how small talk works, knows it's slow, knows it takes time, and happy 2026 to you. AG Rodriguez, man, dangerous, dangerous, dangerous.
I don't think so. The bogeyman has some traits of the creature he becomes, but they're limited. I don't think it's full there. You know, it's not completely ours. It's going to turn into a basilisk there, you know, and it's going to have all the properties. I think it has some properties, but just a little, you know, because, like, Harry feels the Dementors from the bogeyman, right? When he's practicing, he feels it, right? He faints and all that. But I think that the bogeyman couldn't actually suck Harry's soul, you know?
Bella 1991. Hello, Kako. She asked that in 1991. Hello, Kako. How are you? I'm good. You?
A kiss to the family. Another kiss to you and your family too, Kako. Harry saw his mother die. Just kidding. Harry saw his mother die. As a baby, he was already a year old. He shouldn't have seen Thestrals at first, since only after Cedric, a kiss. Seeing Thestrals isn't just about witnessing death. Understanding takes time, and no child remembers what they saw at 1 year old. It's not that simple. He was just 15 months old, and no child remembers what they saw or experienced at that age, right?
Not like that. So no, He wasn't meant to see it. It wouldn't make sense if he did. Kisses, Lord Hades. Oh my god, don't take me to the underworld.
Hey Kako, how are you? How are you doing? Why didn't wizards captured by muggles just disapparate? Like Nick and the Fat Friar, for example. Why didn't they disapparate? I remember that in Deathly Hallows, Harry has this question about whether it's possible to disapparate without a wand. Man, here's the thing. The witch hunts affected a lot of mediocre wizards, okay? A lot of wizards, mediocre ones, who couldn't do anything without a wand. And sometimes, not even with a wand. Like, that's the case with Nearly Headless Nick. Man, he messed up a spell to fix teeth, you know? So, how was he supposed to escape, you know? Without a wand, then. It really depends on the wizard's own ability. So, yeah, some wizards were actually killed because they were mediocre, but others, like for example, Lisette Lapin, escaped, turned into an animagus, and just ran away when she was captured. Renan Cavalcante, hey, Kako, congrats on your daughter, wishing her good health. Thanks. My question is, I've always been curious to know what the expression "by Merlin's beard" means. If you could explain it to me, I'd appreciate it, man. So, one meaning is because Merlin is a figure of great power, right? It's believed that he was one of the most powerful wizards of all time. And then they use this expression like that, you know? It's an equivalent. Let's say it's like saying, oh my god, you know, for God's sake. Merlin was so powerful in the Harry Potter universe that he became a legendary, almost mythical prince of wizards. He almost didn't become a mythical figure. And by Merlin's beard. Merlin had a long beard, right? He's always portrayed with that long beard.
And in the time when Merlin supposedly lived, a long beard was a sign of wisdom, right? So, like, oh, by Merlin's beard, you know? It's something like that. Merlin's beard, Merlin's long beard, it represented wisdom. It represented something like that.
Let's put it in a lot of quotation marks. Sacred, you know? So it's like, wow, by Merlin's beard, it's like, wow, by Merlin's knowledge, by Merlin's wisdom. That's kind of what it means, you know? Cassiano asked, hey, Kako, how are you? I'm good, you? Don't you think it's kind of inconsistent that Dumbledore never asked Harry exactly how he destroyed the diary?
Since he was having trouble destroying the ring, shouldn't he have figured out that whatever destroyed the diary also destroyed the ring?
Well, I don't know if it's inconsistent, because Dumbledore knew that the Basilisk Fang had destroyed the ring. He knew it now. He didn't have any trouble destroying the ring. He didn't have any trouble that I recall. After getting the ring, he went to his office with an injured hand, which he placed there. All right. He tries something, but then grabs the sword, thinking he'll use it since Harry killed the basilisk with it, so there's venom on it. So, I don't know. I don't think it was that inconsistent. Ailey Weasley. Hello, Kako. How are you? I'm good. And you? If a group of underage students from the same house locked a classmate inside a room and he almost died, what would be the protocol? The Ministry of Magic would be required to intervene. Or is it just the headmaster, man? They would probably be expelled, right? They would be expelled, but the headmaster, he has complete authority to deal with it. But if it were a crime, right? Like if a crime happened, then the Ministry of Magic, the proper authorities would get involved. Raphael Amaral. Hello, Wizard Kako. All good here. How about you? Have you noticed that Vicencia Santos's hairstyle is similar to Morgana's from Costello? Ra Tim Bum? In Harry Potter terms, do you think Morgana and Victor are stronger than McGonagall or Dumbledore? I love the idea that Dr. Victor is really good friends with Dumbledore. Like that. To me, that's very real. To me, they're great friends. And Dr. Victor is as powerful as Dumbledore. It's awesome because he's a great inventor. It's true, Vicencia's hair does remind me of Morgana's. It sticks up similarly. Cool observation, but I think they're equally powerful, on the same level. Gabigol from the front, you're crazy! Look, Gabigol from the front. Good evening, Kako. Good evening. How are you?
Voldemort's Horcruxes are destroyed by poison and cursed fire, and the sword works because it holds the poison. This raises a question.
Are the ways to destroy a Horcrux connected to its creator? If Harry made one, would it be destroyed in a different way, not like the other Horcruxes? They are destroyed by means independent of the creator. They are destroyed by cursed fire, by basilisk venom, regardless of the creator. All right. Sidlamus 195. Hi, Kako. All good, all good. Horcruxes bind the wizard who created them to life through an object. For someone like Harry, the soul fragment would stop him from dying naturally, such as from old age, and keep him bound to life. Otherwise, that part would die along with him or detach at the moment of death. Somehow. Man, I just can't answer that question. I simply can't, okay? There isn't any answer about it. The only person who could answer that is J.K. Rowling. And I wouldn't even dare to try to answer something like that. There's just no way to know. First, like Harry, he was tied to life by Voldemort, right? Using Lily's blood protection. Using Harry's blood, he is tied to life. So if Harry was tied to life, as long as Voldemort lived, he would also live in this case.
We know nothing could destroy them unless one was killed while the other lived. Now, if the soul wasn't destroyed, just talking about Horcruxes, if the soul wasn't destroyed.
If the person died of old age, we can't know. We can't know if a wizard, in this case, would die of old age. You know?
There's no way, man, there's no way, because what I imagine, okay, I'll say what I imagine, old age. It's inevitable, unless he took the elixir of life. You know about the Horcrux? It doesn't prevent the body from dying, just keeps the soul from moving on. That's why Voldemort's body is destroyed and he dies, right? So, he died, had his downfall, was saved from death, but his body was destroyed. The body's deterioration can't be stopped, right?
If he didn't take the elixir of life, which he didn't have it. So if he got old and his body couldn't handle it, I think he could die.
I'm just speculating and sharing my thoughts. This isn't an official answer and I can't give one. What do you all think? Gabriel Moraes, Grande, Kaiki, Cardassi, Bombon. And you? Shaving your beard is liberating, right? I know, but you just can't go without it.
How are space travels and things like that? Like visiting other planets in the world? Seen. Bruxo, stay with God. Hugs, success. Thanks, my dear. Hugs.
Shaving your beard can be a relief. And when these questions were asked, I had just shaved. There isn't any mention. None. Nothing. Space travel by wizards like that is probably something they should completely ignore.
So, the only thing we know about the planets is the influence they have on the magic of the stars, astronomy, the influence they have on magic, on the lives of wizards.
Nothing beyond that, so I don't know.
Callion, Kako, hey, how are you? Tulani, Prince's Enigma IH ended a while back, and now I'm on the Unbreakable Vow chapter. When you read it for the first time, did you think Snape was just playing his role as a spy, or that he was really a Death Eater? And what was your reaction when you first read about Dumbledore's death? Man, for me, he was totally a spy. Right there. I said, oh, Snape, hey Snape. Huh, man, Snape, sneaky guy, getting all the information to take to Dumbledore. And then, when it got to the part where Dumbledore dies, I was just like, no way, I was devastated.
My friend, I read and reread that a million times. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I still remember the feeling to this day. Like when I read it, I felt, like when you mess up and your mom catches you lying.
You feel your energy drain and your face heat up.
And it feels like you've been emptied out. That's the feeling I had. It feels like you've been emptied out like that. You know? That was the feeling.
Brother, please never shave your beard again. Sending a hug. It's not a question, but thanks for the advice. Thaise Bess Bati. How Gui, Weasley, and Fleur met. Gui was there during the Triwizard Tournament at Hogwarts, and Fleur was a participant, and that's how they met.
When the families went there, right? Because before the last task, the families of the competitors would go spend some time there with them.
So, in Harry's case, since he doesn't have parents, Mrs. Weasley went with Guy, and that's when Guy met Fleur. And then, that's how it happened.
Vieira. Hi, Kako. I'm good. How about you?
We know that many wizards created their own invisibility cloaks, right? Even though they weren't as powerful as the real one. And what about the Resurrection Stone and the Elder Wand? Did any other wizard ever try to recreate them? The Elder Wand, yes. Grigorovich tried to copy it. Now, the Resurrection Stone.
I'm not sure. There's no evidence, but it's possible someone tried to recreate it. Anna Vieira sent another one.
Hey Kako, how are you? I've always liked Thestrals, and I loved your video about their connection to the Deathly Hallows. Thank you, but I have a question. Where does the connection between Thestrals and death come from? Say hi to your family, man. I think it's mainly because only people who have seen death can see thestrals, right? Only those who have experienced someone's death firsthand and truly understood the grief. I think it's mainly because of that. Mainly because of that now. The exact connection. Honestly. I couldn't tell you, man. I couldn't tell you. There are things that have no explanation. There are things that have no explanation, and that's just how it is. Ana Vieira sent another one. Hi, Kako. How are you? How are you?
Unforgivable curses are only considered unforgivable in the United Kingdom. Your video on the Cruciatus curses creator made me think about this.
I love your channel. Thanks for keeping my love for the wizarding world alive. Thank you, Anina, for the question and affection.
No, I think the unforgivable curses should be unforgivable everywhere in the world. Well, at least it's something very, very governmental, right?
It really depends on each country. If there's any country that allows them, I can't say, but I know that in the United Kingdom, they were banned in 1717.
Ana Vieira sent another message, Kako. All right. I was here rereading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and I
ended up with a question. What would happen if a student selected by the goblet refused to participate in the tournament? Has that ever happened? Your little witch is adorable, congratulations. Thank you so much for the kindness. I've said this before, I once had a thought about this. I've even shared it here, in some cases, in videos, which is the following. I think that if someone put their name in the goblet and doesn't want to go, well, there's nothing to be done. They'll have to go, I guess. I don't think they'll die or anything like that, but it's a contract they can't break, right? A magical contractual act that they can't break. What happens, I don't know. But in Harry's case, I always see it like this. Harry, he could choose not to participate because he wasn't the one who wrote his name. If the Ministry of Magic acted properly, Harry wouldn't participate. Why? Does he participate?
Since Bartok Rausch Sr. was the head of the department, and he was controlled by the Imperius Curse from Wormtail and Voldemort.
Naturally, he'll claim Harry had no choice and had to participate. But that's my view of Harry.
If it were a serious place, if it were like an organization, if the Ministry of Magic were a serious organization, he wouldn't have to participate. Because he didn't put his name in, you know? So, like that, I don't know.
Lore Kaner asked, Hi Kako, how are you? I'm good. And you? I have a request and a question. The request is, could you show us in the English book? If the snake in the first book talks and is from Brazil, what's the second? If Dumbledore can read minds, in quotes, why didn't he immediately detect that Moody was fake? Since the person still has their own thoughts? It's not like that, right? Bartok Rausch was an expert.
Occlumen shields his mind and shows others only what he wants them to see, right? So that's how it works?
Dumbledore trusted him, so he saw no reason to doubt Moody, since the fake Moody, Bartok Rausch Jr., acted just like the real one. He realizes it was the fake Moody, not the real one.
When he gives Moody an order to stay with Harry there, and the fake Moody takes him away, that's when he says the real Moody would never do that, you know?
He had no other reason to be suspicious. Let me grab the book to show you. Hold on, I'll get one of the first ones.
This edition is from 1998. See, it says Chapter 3 right here. The letters from no one, the escape of the Brazilian boa constrictor, earned Harry his longest ever punishment. So, yes, Brazilian boa constrictor. Let's check the sign here. It confirms it, right? But let's go. The snake nodded vigorously. The snake jabbed.
Okay, blah 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 blah. Boa constrictor Brazil. That's right. Boa constrictor Brazil. You can see it there. It's focused.
Second line, boa constrictor Brazil.
Next question is from Vinksnape. Hi, Kako. How are you? I'm good. And you? I'm good too. That's good.
I'm a big fan and have followed you since your first videos 8 years ago. I love your channel and appreciate your kindness.
My question is, does musical magic exist in the world of Harry Potter?
December 14th is my birthday. Wish me a happy birthday. Happy birthday to you? Oh, December just happened here, right? December 2024 marks 2 years. Congratulations and happy birthday. I'm wishing you a happy birthday for December 2024, 2025, and now, 2026, I'm ahead of time. Congrats. Hope your day is magical and you reach all your goals and dreams.
Beauty is musical magic. Well, Dumbledore says that music is one of the most beautiful kinds of magic they do at Hogwarts, right? so it must have its own kind of magic, but I can't tell you which one. Joel Pedro. Hi, Kako. How are you? All good.
And you wondered why people fear the Shrieking Shack being haunted, even though everyone at Hogwarts lives peacefully with ghosts.
Man, have you ever heard that saying, whoever tells a tale adds a point? So people didn't know what was there, especially not knowing what was there. That's what scared them. Not just the fact that it was haunted, because ghosts were the least of it. But there could be other things, you know?
People didn't know what was there, so they got scared.
Guissera. Hi, Kako. How are you? How are you doing? I wanted to know how the taboo works. Like, the ministry decides that word X or action Y is taboo. Whenever the taboo occurs or is mentioned, a map appears and the ministry responds. Hugs to you and your lovely family. Thank you. How does it work? I'm not sure how it works for them, but whenever someone or a word becomes taboo, that's the result. An alert is triggered there and they arrive exactly where it was said. Now, how it appears, how it shows up, I don't know. We can try to use an example for comparison from Congress. Magician from the United States, when there's a magic show and there's that clock that marks the time, right? And it shows a trail of magic on a map. Maybe it's something like that. Bruno Collie, look, he's here again. Hi, Kako, how are you? Good. And you, Kako? Wizard's pockets use the undetectable extension charm, like when Harry keeps the invisibility cloak in his pocket. His pocket is really wide. There must be a spell there that's never mentioned because the cloak is huge, right? He puts it in his pocket, so it must be there, even if it's not mentioned, right? But we can assume, Misty, look, there's Misty. And hey, Kako, how's it going? All good. I love your channel and your daughter is a really cute little witch, thank you. I have no doubts about the story. I just wanted to know who your favorite character is. Oh, thanks for sending it here to the chat, my favorite character. So, my number one favorite is Sirius Black, but the second is Dumbledore. I really like Dumbledore, Ross has asked. Hey Kako, how's it going? All good. And you, man? I really wanted to know if it would be possible for Voldemort to return more than once at the same time, but in different ways.
For example, through the diary and the basic body. I think it's really hard. I don't think it would work. That's difficult, because of the diary.
I always imagined that he would come back, and then his main soul would merge with the main part somehow, you know? So, that's it. I don't think it would be possible to be two at the same time. Andre. Hello, Kako. How are you? I'm good. And you? Will the bogeyman always turn into the same thing for the same person their whole life? Or does it change form as the person changes? Me, for example, when I was 13, I was afraid of death. Actually, it was Harry Potter that made me lose that fear. Today, my fear is becoming poor. Yeah, man, the bogeyman changes. If the fear changes, the bogeyman will change too. Mischievous? He asked. Go ahead, Kako. I'm good. How are you? I have many questions about the diary, so I'll start asking. If he was just a memory, how did he have new information, know Harry, and know what happened? How was Voldemort going to return through him? And how would killing Gina result in his return? Okay, let's go. First, he didn't have updated information on his own.
Gina wrote in the diary, allowing Tom Riddle in it to learn things. The book explains this.
How was Voldemort going to return through him, using Gina's life energy, while she got weaker and he got stronger? How would killing Gina result in his return? Exactly like that. He planned to return that way. Drain Gina's life force so she'd die, and give it to Voldemort.
Guys, sorry if I sound tired while I'm asking the questions, but I really am, because it's 100 questions and I'm doing my best. To wrap up this episode,
we're on question 93 from Guilherme. Hi, Kako. Hi, I have a question about the polyjuice potion. If you take a strand of someone's hair and a few years go by before you make the potion, would I take on the wizard's look from when I got the hair, or how they look now? I think it would be the appearance they had when you took the hair. For this reason, Bartle Crouch Jr. had to keep the real Alastair Moody there, so he could keep transforming into his current form, you know? And I also think it's essential to keep the person alive to transform. With the polyjuice potion. Cool. Maroda sent another one. Hey, Kako. All good again. All good again. And you? What purpose do Helga Hufflepuff's cup and Slytherin's locket serve? Since the diadem boosted intelligence and the sword appeared when needed. For the cup, I imagine something like drinking from it and feeling satisfied. Is there anything official about that? There's nothing official about the cup's powers, just that it has numerous powers. but they're unknown. I think it relates to healing, possibly a healing power. But the medallion, I believe its power has to do with... Actually, I don't think the medallion had any great power.
I think it was more a way for Slytherin to keep the family lineage, like, only the family could recognize it, open the medallion with Parseltongue and all that.
And I even had the theory that inside there was the map of the Chamber of Secrets. Instructions for the Chamber of Secrets. This is just a theory. Okay, it's not official.
Alright, Wanderson, Mosquito, hey Kako. Alright, I'm good too. Alright, man, I watch all your videos. Thanks a lot, okay?
My question is, if Harry Potter is such a success, why didn't J.K. write a new book after Deathly Hallows? Has she already given an explanation? A hug to you and your family, man. Well, she didn't need money, right? So she wanted to write other things. That's why she went on to write that detective series, the Cormoran Strike one. So Harry Potter is an established universe and all. I don't know if she didn't want to continue because she didn't want to ruin what was already done and finish so well, you know? I don't know.
John Montes. Hello, Kako. How are you? How are you? And you, what do you think about the changes the movies made?
With some characters, like for example Dumbledore being more energetic, Snape being less petty, because in the books, he's despicable. Does that add anything to the Harry Potter universe?
Personally, I don't really like changing the characters' personalities. I think the essence of the characters should be maintained.
But some changes there served as a narrative device for Snape, for example. Man, he wouldn't have the same impact in his redemption there if he were the big jerk he is in the books. You know?
They romanticized Dumbledore even more. He needed to give off a more powerful vibe, so at some points they changed a few things about him, like his energy. You know?
I prefer it the way it is in the book. I'll always prefer how it is in the book, you know? I understand changes. I'm not one of those people who think that changes ruin everything. The book's story is always the original. While I try to understand and appreciate changes, I still prefer the original version. Nescow says, Kako, all good, all good. And you? I thought of a theory about why Harry's wand was fixed, even though Ollivander thought it was impossible. Could it relate to the phoenix's tail, the creature that rises from ashes? Congrats on your work and daughter. Big hug. It's a good theory, I think, but I don't think it has much to do with it. It's more related to the fact that the Elder Wand was used, and it's a really powerful thing there. 98 Gabi Fritz. Hey, Kako, how's it going? All good. And you? Checking out the random chats?
I realize that many questions can't be answered due to a lack of available information on the subjects.
For sure. If you could ask one question about each book and one about the wizarding world in general, what would you ask J.K. Rowling? Wow, that's tough. I can't list a question about each book right now. Let's see what I remember. But I really can't. But one question I'm absolutely sure I would ask is about the process of creating a Horcrux. The process of creating a Horcrux. I would definitely ask another one, which I would. Why didn't the Potters apparate that night when Voldemort came? Does apparating with a baby have any influence there, you know? I think I would do that. That question, let me see what else I would ask off the top of my head. I can't remember. But if there's one question that's certain, it's the one about the Horcrux. João Pedro Kako. The best way to protect yourself wouldn't be if two wizards made a Horcrux out of each other. So, it would have the resistance of a Horcrux, which can only be destroyed by cursed fire or basilisk venom. And your Horcrux would be wizards who could defend themselves if someone tried to destroy them. I don't think it's ideal, since a wizard can be killed. And once that happens, the Horcrux would be destroyed, as we saw with Harry. Even if his soul didn't move on, the Horcrux would still be destroyed. I know his question assumes that being a Horcrux means he can't die. The body can be destroyed, the soul would stay, but the Horcrux in that body would be gone.
Anyway, Daniel Nobrega 13 with his last question. Hey Kako, hey bro, do you know what happened to Rita Skeeter when Hermione became Minister of Magic?
Another question I always have is how useful is Snape's portrait, since he only lived with himself for a few months. Hugs to you and your family. Big hug to you, and also to Rita Skeeter. She stayed there, working as a reporter for the Daily Prophet. In fact, at the 2014 Quidditch World Cup she was there, right? At the Cup, covering it together with Ginny Weasley, who became a sports correspondent. About Snape's portrait, yeah. He didn't have much time to spend with Snape alive, right? But since there are already several portraits of headmasters there, I don't think it would make much difference. We're wrapping up our chit-chat. My God, I'm really tired. I'm recording this part. It's 50 minutes. The first part was over 70 minutes. I said on Instagram I'd do a 500 question episode only if this gets over 500,000 likes. I know that's impossible, so it won't happen. Thank you for the support. Thank you for watching up to this point. If your question showed up and you're happy, great. If your question didn't show up,
Don't worry, because there are still 245 more questions for me to answer that I haven't answered yet.
but there are 2 episodes of Small Talk with 100 questions each ready for me to do. In 4 or 5 months, I'll do another one. So if you sent a question and it wasn't included, it will show up then.
Email me, direct message me, or send a screenshot of your question. It's in the description. If your question is chosen, I'll let you know, and it will appear eventually.
Thanks for the affection and for watching. See you next episode of Caldeiraofurado, Mischief Managed.